The garage feels like a crypt. The air is thick with the smell of oil, expensive perfume, and acrid disappointment. In the center, under the beam of a single bright lamp, there it stands. A silver hypercar. It should roar. It should tremble with hidden power, but it's simply silent. Silent so loudly that the sound presses on your temples. This isn't just a machine. It's a statue. A symbol. $10 million of cold, impeccable engineering. That's the price of silence these days. People were milling around the car. They were wearing expensive sneakers and clean but worn overalls. These were the best mechanics in the city, or so they called themselves. They were the fifth one today. Each one had a confident look, a set of state-of-the-art scanners, and a promise that they would find the problem. And each one's gaze faded. They plugged in their computers. The screens glowed with dozens of graphs. They probed wires, checked fuses, listened to the starter. Their faces were first focused, then puzzled, then pale. They whispered to each other, shaking their heads. They apologized. Their eyes were lowered to the floor. They were quickly and wordlessly led out of the garage. These departures leave a heavy sense of failure in the air. Jin Ho's men, burly men in dark jackets, watch this quiet comedy with mounting anger. Their hands clench into fists. They smoke, cigarettes clenched in their mouths, the smoke billowing out like anger. They don't understand machines. They understand power, respect, and shame. And this silent hunk of metal is a disgrace to their boss, and therefore to them too. And the boss himself, Jin Ho, stands in the shadows, against the wall. He doesn't smoke, he doesn't move, he simply watches. He's 40. His body, powerful and toned, even in a simple black sweater and trousers, seems taut like a spring. On his arms and neck, peeking out from under the collar of his sweater, are intricate patterns of tattoos. These aren't pictures, they're stories. Text in an unknown language, symbols that once meant something long ago. Now they're just part of his skin, part of his armor. His face is motionless. Not a muscle twitches, as yet another specialist removes his cap and mumbles an apology. His eyes, dark and cold, simply register the fact. Another failure. There's no anger in them, the one his men sense. There's something more dangerous, an icy, pent-up calm, like a man counting to 10, very slowly. And everyone in the garage, even his most trusted men, fear what will happen when he reaches 10. His chief mechanic, a guy named Liam, paces around the hypercar like a wounded animal. He wipes his hands on an already dirty rag. He spent a solid hour trying to do what others had failed. He knows this car better than anyone. He's serviced it, he's washed it, he's admired it. And now he feels his silence as a personal insult. His cheeks burn. He throws the rag on the floor. "There's nothing here!" His voice breaks, echoing throughout the quiet garage. "Everything's clean. Everything works. And it just won't start. It's like the soul has gone out of it." One of the guards frowned. "Maybe this soul is hidden somewhere else?" he said quietly. "Maybe someone put the evil eye on our car?" Jin Ho slowly turns his head in his direction. "Just a centimeter. That's enough." The guard immediately falls silent, turns away, pretending to look out the window. Silence falls over the garage again. The hypercar sits there, its chrome gleaming under the lamp. It's beautiful. It's perfect. And it's completely useless. Expensive, very expensive scrap metal. Jin Ho tears his gaze away from the car and looks at the wide garage doors. They're wide open. It's already evening there. A city evening with yellow streetlights and a few passers-by. A world beyond this tension. The smell of fear and expensive oil. He stares at them for a few seconds. Perhaps he's searching for an answer there. Perhaps he's simply giving his eyes a rest from this spectacle of helplessness. He doesn't know that the answer is already walking down the street. By chance. In passing. Lyra is heading home. She's had a long day. She works in a small shop 3 blocks away. She fixes ordinary cars, changes oil, brake pads, mufflers. It's dirty work, honest, and doesn't pay much. But she loves it. For the smell of gasoline. For the clarity. There's a problem. There's a solution. Fix it. Drive off. She's tired. Small wood shavings are stuck in her hair, white and curly as a cloud. Her arms ache a little under her denim jacket. She thinks of a hot shower, a cup of tea, the silence of her small apartment. She turns onto her street, taking her usual route. Her path leads past a large, inconspicuous garage. She knows the place. Everyone in the area does. They say someone serious is based there. Not criminal, no. Just serious people. Lyra always passed by without breaking stride. She has no business with them. They have business with her. Today, the garage door is open. Bright light spills onto the sidewalk, and from that light comes sound, or rather, the absence of sound. Lyra had already passed by. Her steps slowed of their own accord. She stopped. She turned her head. She hears voices. She hears nervous laughter. She hears someone's harsh words. But her brain, her instinct, honed by thousands of hours of work, picks out something else from this chaos. Silence, that special, wrong silence that a complex mechanism experiences when it's not just broken, but offended. It's a sound that ordinary people don't hear. It's like hearing that someone's heart isn't beating. From the outside, it looks like they're just sleeping. But, her body turns toward the light. She stands on the sidewalk and looks in. She sees a group of men, sees their tense poses, sees them looking at something in the center, and then her gaze finds it. A silver silhouette under the lamp. She's never seen a car like this up close, only in pictures. Her eyes, accustomed to assessing the geometry of the body, the condition of the paint, immediately grasp its perfect proportions. It's a masterpiece, and this masterpiece is dead. She feels it in her bones. She doesn't move. She just stands and watches. Her fatigue fades away. Something ancient, something artisanal switches on in her head. Curiosity? A professional challenge? She doesn't know. Everyone in the garage is so consumed by their own helplessness that at first they don't notice the woman in a denim jacket on the sidewalk. Liam, the head mechanic, notices her. He's desperate. He's ready to grasp at straws. Any straw. He sees her looking, not like a passerby ogling a beautiful car. She looks intently. Her gaze glides over the lines of the car, as if searching for a flaw. Her head is slightly tilted, as if she's listening to something, to the silence. Something inside Kostya is torn apart. Anger, shame, helplessness, it all bursts out in one sarcastic, loud cry. He turns toward the gate, his face contorted into a grimace. "Hey, passerby!" he shouts, making everyone in the garage jump and turn around. "You're standing there, looking like a scientist. Maybe you know what's going on? Maybe you have a magic wand in your pocket?" There's a moment of silence in the garage. Then one of the guards chuckles. Everyone looks at Lyra. They look at her with irritation, boredom, amusement. Some woman with white hair. What could she know? Lyra doesn't turn away. She doesn't leave. Her face remains calm. She looks straight at Kostya. Then, for a split second, her gaze shifts to Jin-ho's motionless figure in the depths of the garage. He looks at her, too. Their gazes meet. He doesn't express anything. He simply observes. Lyra pauses. Every ounce of common sense in her screams, "Go home! These aren't your problems. These are dangerous people." She hears that inner voice very clearly, but she also hears that same wrong silence coming from the garage. She knows that sound. She encountered something similar long ago when she worked with racing teams. Not breakdowns, but the whims of high-tech systems. When the car doesn't break down, but simply refuses to work due to some stupidity, because of a trivial thing that everyone overlooks. And there's something else. The challenge in that mechanic's voice, the humiliation in his shout. She hates it when people laugh at her profession, when they think it's just a matter of tightening some screws. She exhales. Her decision matures in a second. Lyra unslung her old, worn tool bag, adjusted it in her hand, and took a step. Not back, toward safety, but forward. Across the edge of the light spilling from the garage onto the sidewalk, she goes inside. Her footsteps echo softly across the concrete floor. All eyes are on her. The guards become wary. Their postures change, becoming more collected. They look at Jin-ho, awaiting orders. Lyra doesn't walk toward the car. She stops a couple of meters away, at a respectful distance. She looks at the hypercar, then at the angry Kostya, then back to where the boss is standing. Jin-ho doesn't move. He studies her. He sees her simple, clean work clothes. He sees the tool bag she holds confidently. He sees her hands. Not perfect, with small scratches, but strong. He sees her face. It's calm. No fear. No challenge. There is focus, like a surgeon before surgery. His interest, previously zero, stirs slightly. He's seen many faces today. Frightened, insolent, confused. This face is different. It shows no emotion about him. Jin-ho. It shows interest in the car. One of the guards, a big guy with a short neck, takes a step towards Lyra to block her further path. Jin-ho raises his hand. Just a few centimeters, palm down. A clear, distinct gesture. Stop. The guard freezes. Jin-H then slowly lowers his hand and makes another gesture. a slight movement of his fingers, inviting her to come closer. His gaze remains fixed on Lyra. There's a question in his eyes now. Not, who are you, but, what can you do? Lyra understands the gesture. She nods briefly, almost imperceptibly. She passes the frozen guard and approaches the hypercar, but not the driver's door. She stops next to the front fender. She doesn't touch the car. She simply stands and watches. The garage is quiet again. Everyone's waiting for her to say something stupid, for her to ask to open the hood or inquire about the mileage. Lyra turns to Kostya. Her voice is quiet but clear. It carries well in the silence. Turn on the ignition. Don't start it. Just for a second. Liam looks at Jin-ho. He nods slightly. The mechanic sits down and presses the start button without pressing the brake pedal. The dashboard comes to life. Dozens of indicators light up. A faint, almost inaudible current runs through the car. The sound of electronics waking up. A sound normal to anyone in a garage. But not for Lyra. Her eyes close for a split second. She concentrates. She filters out the noise of the city outside, the heavy breathing of the guards, her own heartbeat. She listens to the machine, and he hears it. A barely perceptible, high-pitched hum. Not what it should be, with a slight hint of vibration, as if something is trembling somewhere, but very faintly. The sound disappears when Liam releases the button. Lyra opens her eyes. She no longer doubts. The problem isn't the engine, she says confidently, and it's not the main electronics. The problem is the climate control system. There's a second of complete silence, and then the garage explodes. Liam jumps out of the car, his face flushing. What? His voice is full of mockery, not faith. Climate control? Are you serious? We have a $10 million hypercar that won't start, and you're talking about the air conditioning? Mine blows just fine. Cold, warm, what the hell? The guards exchange glances. One of them can't help but grin. They're not mechanics, but even they understand how absurd this sounds. As if the plane's engines failed because the toilet in the cabin wasn't working. Even the most gloomy of them shake their heads. The woman turned out to be just a fantasist. Too bad. And she looked so confident. Lyra doesn't answer Kostya. She doesn't even look at him. She looks at the one in charge here, at Jin-ho, and he looks at her. His face still expresses nothing. No laughter, no disappointment. He's above it all. He's simply analyzing. He sees that her confidence hasn't been shaken by her laughter. She stands calmly, waiting. She's not making excuses. She's not trying to prove anything to the mechanics. She's made her statement. Now she's waiting for the decision-maker's reaction. Jin-ho tears his gaze away from her and looks at his car, at that silver silent symbol. Then he looks back at Lyra. His lips don't move. He just nods, very slowly again, once. It doesn't mean I believe. It means, go on, show me. And at that moment, everyone in the garage realizes the show isn't over yet. The laughter dies down. Everyone freezes. Now they're looking not at the expensive scrap metal, but at the strange woman with white hair and their boss, who, against all logic, gave her a chance. Lyra understands the nod. She sets her worn bag down on the clean floor, next to the hypercar's tire, and unzips it. Inside are not shiny new tools, but old but well-maintained ones. Wrenches, a set of screwdrivers, a few pliers, and a small plastic box with various small items. She opens the box and rummages around inside. She takes out a small, flathead Phillips head screwdriver. She searches further. She finds a small roll of special tape. It's gray, soft to the touch, like foam rubber, but dense. It's called damper tape. It's used to dampen vibrations, preventing parts from banging against each other. Lyra had once bought it to repair a bicycle, to prevent the frame cover from rattling. She raises her head and looks at the senior mechanic, Kostya. I need to remove the lower panel under the glove compartment, on the left. Can you help me light it? Her voice is businesslike, not solicitous, as if they were colleagues. Liam looks at her, then at his boss. Jin-ho nods again, slowly. The mechanic, still scowling, mutters something under his breath, but grabs a powerful flashlight and approaches the passenger door. He opens it. Lyra doesn't sit down on the expensive leather interior. She carefully kneels on the concrete floor just inside the door. Everyone in the garage moves closer, forming a semicircle. They're breathing down her neck. The guards stand behind her, arms crossed. Jin-ho takes 2 steps forward. Now he can see everything clearly. Lyra picks up a screwdriver. She takes her time. First, she simply runs her fingers along the joint between the plastic panel under the glove compartment and the center console. She finds 3 almost invisible Phillips head recesses. She inserts the screwdriver into the first one, gently turns it. There's a soft click, then a second, a third. Her movements are precise, economical. She doesn't scratch the plastic, doesn't apply force. Liam shines the flashlight directly on her hands. He watches her work, and his eyebrows slowly rise. This isn't an amateur's style. Only people who've done it hundreds of times and know where the delicate latches are remove panels this way. The panel comes off. Lyra carefully sets it aside on a clean rag, which Liam instinctively places under it. Inside, a tangle of wires, plastic tubes, and small black boxes, control units, reveals itself. The air from the garage smells of oil and sweat. The air from under this panel smells of new plastic and ozone. Lyra doesn't climb inside. She leans over and listens. Then she asks, "Turn the ignition back on, for 3 seconds." Liam glances at the driver's seat. One of the guards quickly gets behind the wheel and presses a button. The panel lights up. Lyra closes her eyes. She listens again. Her hand slowly enters the open opening, but doesn't touch anything. She just holds it there, palm up, as if catching invisible waves. "Turn it off," she says after 3 seconds. Silence. Again, "Turn it on." The soft hum of electronics again. "There," Lyra says. "There it is." She opens her eyes. Her fingers move confidently now. They find one of the small black plastic blocks attached to the frame. It's the control unit for the ventilation and heated seats. She lightly touches it with her finger. Can you feel it? Micro vibration. It's almost non-existent, but it's there. She tears off a small piece of her gray damper tape. A small rectangle. Oh, about the size of a matchbox. Then she carefully, with the tip of a screwdriver, loosens one of the mounting screws that holds the unit in place. She doesn't unscrew it completely. The unit comes loose from its mount slightly. Lyra places her piece of tape on the metal mount, directly under where the unit sits. Then she tightens the screw back down. The unit now rests not on bare metal, but on a soft, damping pad. A design flaw, she explains quietly, more to herself than to anyone else. The vibration from the climate control fan at a certain low speed is transmitted to the housing of this unit, and the unit sits on the same frame as the main diagnostic computer. The computer senses an extraneous vibration that it can't identify. It thinks it's a sign of a catastrophic failure somewhere in the engine, and it goes into emergency mode. Total systems failure. Protection. She replaces the plastic panel. She clicks it shut with 3 gentle presses of her palm. Click, click, click. She gets up from her kneeling position, brushes the dust off her jeans. She puts the screwdriver and the almost finished roll of tape back into her bag. "Done. Try starting it," she says, looking at Jinho. The garage is so quiet, you can hear water dripping somewhere behind the wall. Everyone stares at the hypercar. They stare at the small black block under the glove compartment, now insulated with a piece of cheap tape. This can't be enough. It seems like a joke. Jinho looks at the driver's door. His gaze is a command. The guard behind the wheel takes a deep breath. His fingers tighten on the steering wheel. He glances at the dashboard. Then he presses the brake pedal firmly and, with one precise motion, presses the engine start button. What happens is this. First, instant silence. Then, a smooth, rich, velvety rumble. It doesn't explode. It doesn't roar. It just starts. Perfectly normal. As if it were supposed to. All the indicators on the dashboard glow a steady green and white. The tachometer shows idle speed, a flat line. The engine runs quietly, powerfully, without a single glitch. It works. The sound of the engine fills the garage, but at first it seems no one can hear it. Everyone is frozen. Liam stands with the flashlight at his side. His mouth is slightly open. He looks from the car to Lyra. His expression is one of complete, utter incomprehension. He spent 5 hours tinkering with this machine with $1,000 scanners, and she fixed it in 5 minutes with a piece of bicycle tape. His professional world is crumbling. The guards exchange glances. Their skeptical grins are gone. Now there is confusion and wary respect in their eyes. They don't understand what has happened, but they see the result. The machine that was dead is alive. Jinho doesn't move, but his stony, impassive face suddenly changes. The muscles around his eyes tense slightly. His eyebrows lift slightly. His lips remain pressed together, but a storm is unfolding in his dark eyes. Stunned, quick, merciless analysis, and pure, unadulterated amazement. He looks at his car, which rumbles quietly, like a contented animal. Then his gaze slowly shifts to Lyra. He studies her with a new, burning intensity. This is no longer the look of a random passerby. This is the look of a phenomenon, a mystery. The roar of the engine continues. It seems no one dares to turn it down. Jin Ho takes a step forward. His step is heavy, confident. He stops a meter from Lyra. Now he looks down at her, but there is no threat in his posture. There is a need to understand. "Who are you?" he asks. His voice is still low, even, but there is more to it than just politeness. A demand. Lyra meets his gaze. She does not lower her eyes. There is no challenge in her posture, only weary confidence. "The one who used to tune the sound for racing teams," she answers shortly. She does not specify which teams, where, or when. It is simply a fact, an explanation. Liam, hearing this, nods slowly to himself, still impressed. A sound engineer. They don't just listen to music. They hear the slightest extraneous noises, vibrations, resonances. They can detect a crack in metal by a change in sound. It makes sense. Jin Ho nods too, once. He doesn't ask for details. This answer satisfies him. It explains everything. Jin Ho turns to one of his men, the one standing closest. He understands the gesture without words. The guard takes a thick envelope made of thick brown paper from the inside pocket of his jacket. It is unopened. The guard rips it open with the tip of a knife and hands it to the boss. Jin Ho takes the envelope. He doesn't even look inside. He knows what's inside. A large sum of cash. He hands the envelope to Lyra. "Yours," he says simply. Lyra looks at the envelope. Then she takes it. It's heavy. She unfolds the flap and quickly peers inside. A wad of tightly packed bills. Very large denominations. The amount is probably equal to her earnings for several months at the workshop. She doesn't put the envelope in her pocket. She takes out the wad. Carefully, slowly, she counts out exactly half of the bills. Her finger slides along the edges of the bills, dividing the stack in half. Then she puts one half back in the envelope. She hands the remaining half of the money back to Jin Ho. "My work isn't worth that much," she says clearly. Her voice doesn't waver. "This is 10 minutes' pay and a piece of tape. The rest is your insecurity. I didn't cure that." She turns, puts her half of the money in her tool bag, and zips it up. Ho's face changes again. Surprise gives way to cold, intense interest. He doesn't take the outstretched money. He watches her hand over half. No one in his world does that. No one refuses money. No one says such things to him. The guard takes the money from Lyra's hand, seeing his boss's gesture. "Your skills are unique," Jin Ho says. His voice becomes quieter, but only more weighty. "You are needed here. I have many machines, complex ones. I will have many problems. I'm offering you a job, permanent, a salary 5 times more than what is in this envelope, every month. This is not an offer. It is practically an order." There is an ironclad certainty in his tone that no one in their right mind would refuse it. Lyra looks at him. She sees in his eyes more than just interest in her talent. She sees a desire to own this talent, to control it, to appropriate it. She slowly shakes her head. "No," she says politely but firmly. "Thank you. I already have work." She slings her bag over her shoulder. She turns to leave. Lyra walks toward the garage exit. Her footsteps echo. She feels dozens of eyes on her behind her. She feels Jin Ho's heavy gaze. No one stops her. The guards part, letting her pass. She steps out into the cool evening air. The garage doors remain open behind her. The sound of the hypercar gradually fades, drowned out by the noise of the city. Lyra takes a deep breath. Her hands tremble slightly. She grips the strap of her bag tighter. She follows her route home. She passes one intersection, another. She tries to calm her breathing. She just earned more in 10 minutes than she earned in a month. She just fixed the impossible. She should feel euphoria, but she feels only a heaviness in her stomach, a chill on her back. At the third intersection, before turning toward her house, she pauses, as if adjusting the bag on her shoulder. Her eyes skim the reflections in the window of a closed store. In the reflection, about 30 meters behind, under a street lamp, she sees a man. He's wearing a dark jacket. He stands as if waiting for someone, looking at his phone, but he was standing the same way at the previous intersection, and the one before that. It's one of the security guards from the garage, a young man with short hair. He's not trying to hide. He's simply following her at a respectful distance, like a shadow. His job isn't to attack. His job is to see where she goes, to remember, to report. Lyra understands this immediately. Refusing the job didn't end the story. It only started it. Jin Ho's interest hasn't waned. It's simply shifted to another phase. She turns abruptly and quickly continues on, without looking back, but the chill on her back doesn't disappear. She knows the shadow will follow her all the way to the threshold. The next morning, Lyra wakes to the alarm. It's a normal weekday. The sun shines through the window of her small apartment. The money she earned yesterday lies in a drawer, wrapped in newspaper. It seems unreal, as if from another life. She puts on old work jeans and a t-shirt, makes coffee in a Turkish coffee pot, and has a quick breakfast. Her movements are habitual, automatic. She tries not to think about yesterday, about the hypercar, about its owner, about the shadow that followed her all the way to the entrance. Lyra leaves the house and locks the door. She looks around carefully. The yard is empty. The street is filled with the usual morning traffic. No black cars, no onlookers. Maybe she imagined it all. Maybe the guy was just heading in the same direction. She arrives at the workshop. It's a small garage with 2 lifts. She works there with the owner, an elderly man named Victor. He's already there, turning on the lights and preparing his tools. "Hey," he nods to her. "What's the plan?" "They're bringing that Toyota with the noise in the front suspension at 10. "Okay," Lyra replies. She pulls on her overalls and ties her white hair into a tight ponytail. The entire day goes by as usual. She diagnoses a loose wheel, replaces bushings, and checks wheel alignment. Her hands do the familiar work themselves. The smell of metal, oil, and rubber, that's her world. Simple and understandable. There are no $10 million cars or people with the gaze of a bird of prey here. There's only a broken part, and the task of fixing it. Victor praises her for her meticulous work. The client picks up the car satisfied. By lunchtime, Lyra has calmed down. She eats a sandwich, sitting on a box of spare parts, and watches the sky reflected in a puddle in the workshop courtyard. Everything is fine. She's returned to her normal life. After lunch, the silence is broken by the low, powerful hum of several engines. 2 large black SUVs pull into the workshop yard, splashing dirty water from puddles. They are new, expensive, with tinted windows. They stop right in front of the open garage doors, blocking the entrance. Victor throws down the wrench and goes out to check. Lyra freezes, rag in hand. Her heart starts beating faster. A man steps out of the front SUV. It's not Jin Ho. It's someone else. Tall, lean, in a perfect dark suit. His face is narrow, ascetic. His hair is cropped short. It's Kim, the boss's right-hand man. Lyra saw him yesterday in the garage. He was standing to the side, silently memorizing everything. Kim slowly approaches Victor. His face is expressionless. "We're here to see your employee," he says quietly, but loud enough for everyone to hear. On a personal matter, Victor looks at the cars, then at Kim, then turns to Lyra. His expression is one of confusion and alarm. "Lyra, what happened?" "It's okay, Uncle Vitya," Lyra says, stepping forward. She tries to keep her voice calm. "I'll figure it out." She approaches Kim. He looks at her appraisingly. His eyes are cold, like a snake's. "We need to talk," Kim says. Alone. Lyra moves aside with Kim toward the garage wall, away from Victor's prying ears, but still within his reach. She doesn't want him to worry, or to overhear their conversation. Kim doesn't waste time on introductions. "The boss asked me to convey his offer to you. It still stands, but now the conditions are better. We'll provide a separate, fully equipped workshop, any tools you can name. Your salary will be 10 times what you could earn here in a year. You'll work only on interesting projects, no restrictions." He speaks in a calm, polite voice, like a hiring manager offering a position at a major company. But there's nothing polite in his eyes. There's only cold calculation and subtle pressure. Lyra listens, looking somewhere past his shoulder. She already knows her answer. "I said no yesterday. My answer hasn't changed," she says. "I'm grateful for the offer, but I'm happy here." Kim nods slowly, as if he'd been expecting this. He takes a slim phone from his inside jacket pocket. "The boss understands that you're a modest person, and that you need time to think," he says. He opens a photo on the phone screen and turns it toward Lyra. "We'll make sure you have that time, and comfortable conditions for reflection." The photograph shows her house, her entrance, taken from the same angle where the observer stood last night. The photograph is recent, apparently taken this morning. "We just need to know where you are." "To protect such a valuable talent," Kim continues, putting away the phone. His voice is still polite, but the threat is now clear in his words. If she doesn't agree, they will protect her, meaning they will monitor her every move. She won't have a choice. Lyra feels a shiver run down her spine, but she doesn't lower her eyes. "Tell him I understand," she says quietly. but my answer is still no. Kim nods again, his face expressionless. He turns and walks toward his SUV without another word. The cars turn around and drive away, leaving behind silence and the smell of expensive exhaust. For the rest of the day, Lyra works mechanically. Her thoughts are elsewhere. Victor tries a couple of times to ask what's wrong, but she brushes it off, saying it's just unpleasant acquaintances. That evening, she walks home slowly, constantly looking back. She doesn't see the black SUVs. She doesn't see the watchers, but that doesn't calm her down. She understands that their invisibility is now even more dangerous. She approaches her door on the third floor and stops. The door is closed but unlocked. There's a gap of a few millimeters between the door and the frame. She clearly remembers turning the key twice this morning and tugging the handle to check. Her heart sinks. She quietly pushes the door. It opens without a sound. Lyra steps inside and freezes. The apartment is tidy. Nothing is scattered or upended. Everything is in its place. But something is off. The air. There's a faint alien scent in it. Expensive cologne or aftershave. The same smell that was in Jinho's garage. She quickly checks all the rooms. No one. No signs of forced entry. But someone has carefully examined her things. Her space. Simply entered, looked, and left, leaving the door slightly ajar as a quiet reminder. We were here. We can come back any time. Lyra locks the door and props it open with a chair. She sits on the bed and stares into the darkness. Fear gives way to cold, clear anger. They've crossed the line. In the morning, Lyra leaves her apartment earlier than usual. In the entryway, she runs into her neighbor, an elderly taxi driver named Gennady Stepanovich. He's returning from his night shift, tired, carrying a bag. "Oh, Lirochka, hello," he says, stopping. "Did you have guests last night?" Lyra becomes wary. "No." "What?" "Oh, nothing," mutters Gennady Stepanovich, digging in his pocket for his keys. "There was a black car, an expensive one, sitting here under the windows almost all day. I left in the morning, and it was there. I came back in the evening, and it was still there. And then in the evening, around 8 o'clock, I saw a guy get out of it and walk towards our entrance. A tall guy, in a suit. I thought he was visiting someone." Lyra swallows. "Maybe he did. I probably didn't close the door properly this morning." "Be careful." The old man shakes his head. "People are strange these days. The car has license plates from a completely different region. I'll check now if I wrote them down or not." He starts rummaging through his old notebook. Lyra doesn't wait. She understands everything that needs to be understood. Kim or his man were here all day. They didn't just take pictures of the house. They were waiting for her. And then, when they were sure she was at work, they entered the apartment. A strange machine from another region. This means they're not afraid of being noticed. Or, on the contrary, it's a way to show that they're ubiquitous. "Thank you, Gennady Stepanovich," says Lyra. "I'll be more careful." She quickly descends the stairs. She no longer has any doubts. All morning in the workshop, Lyra is silent and working. She is making a decision. Her hands do their work, and her head formulates a plan. During her lunch break, while washing her hands, her personal phone vibrates in the pocket of her work overalls. An unfamiliar number, with the same area code as the city. She wipes her hands and opens the message. It's short. "Talent shouldn't be wasted. Let's discuss this again. D.H. Initials. Jin Ho." He's writing to her personally. A formal offer through Kim didn't work, so now he's approaching her directly. This isn't a request. This is the last warning before his methods become less polite. Lyra doesn't answer. She deletes the message. She looks at her phone. If they found her number, then they already know more about her than she thought. Perhaps through that same mechanic, Kostya, who might have heard her call Victor. Perhaps through other means. She no longer feels fear, only determination. She will not discuss. She will not become part of his world. After work, Lyra doesn't go home. She goes to the bank and withdraws all her savings, including yesterday's money. She buys the cheapest phone with a prepaid SIM card on the other side of town. She doesn't call anyone. She doesn't text. She returns to her apartment only late in the evening, checking again for surveillance. The house is quiet. She quickly packs her things. Not everything, just the very best. Essentials, documents, a few clothes, your personal and most valuable tools. All of this fits into one large duffel bag and backpack. She leaves the keys on the table. The landlord will have to find a new tenant. She puts on a dark jacket with a hood, pulling it over her white hair. Before leaving, she pauses for a second at the threshold and looks around her small, sparse apartment. There was no luxury there, but there was her life. Now that too is gone. Lyra turns off the light, goes out, and closes the door. She doesn't leave a note. She simply disappears into the night city, as if she'd never been there. She goes to the bus station and buys a ticket for the night bus to the nearest major city, 100 kilometers away. She sits in the back seat, clutching her bag, and stays awake the entire journey, staring out the dark window. In the morning, she gets off at an unfamiliar train station. The city is bigger, noisier. It's easier to disappear here. She finds a cheap hotel for a night and then starts looking for work. She visits several auto repair shops on the outskirts. At the third one, a small shop specializing in foreign cars. She's lucky. The owner, a heavy-set man named Sergey, urgently needs a competent mechanic. He looks at her hands, at her confident answers to technical questions, and hires her for a trial period. Lyra rents a small room in an old building near her work. She doesn't fill out any paperwork. She pays in cash. She doesn't tell anyone about her past. She says she moved because of family circumstances. The week passes quietly. The work is the same as before. The same oils, the same brake discs, the same dissatisfied customers. No one asks unnecessary questions. No one arrives in black SUVs. Every evening, Lyra checks to make sure she's not being followed. Nothing suspicious. She begins to breathe a little more freely. Maybe they've fallen behind. Maybe Jin-ho has decided she's not worth the trouble. Maybe normal life is possible again. A week later, on Friday afternoon, Lyra is working under the car, replacing the muffler. The radio is playing in the workshop. Sergey is sawing something with a grinder in the corner. And suddenly, through the din of music and instruments, she hears a sound. Not just an engine, a special sound. A low, velvety, perfectly smooth rumble. It's so unique that it's unmistakable. Lyra's heart stops. She holds her breath. The sound is approaching. Slowly. It doesn't pass by at speed. It seems to float along the street. It gets louder, then quieter, as if a car is slowing down right in front of a workshop. Lyra quickly rolls out from under the car on a rolling cart. Her face is covered in soot and oil. She stands and approaches the open garage door. A silvery car floats past the workshop at walking speed. A hypercar. Its body gleams in the sun, just like it did that day in the garage. Behind the wheel, she sees the same security guard who was there then. And in the passenger seat, the motionless profile of Jin-ho. He doesn't look in her direction. He looks straight ahead, but his car is driving so slowly that it can't be called an accident. It's a demonstration. It's a message. The car drives past without stopping. A few seconds later, it disappears around the corner. The rumble of the engine slowly dissolves into the city noise. Lyra stands at the gate, leaning her hand on the frame. Her fingers are white with tension. Her ears are ringing. They found her. And they didn't just find her. They came to show her, so she would know. A distance of 100 kilometers means nothing to them. Her escape was child's play. They gave her a week of illusion. And now the game is over. Lyra stands at the gate for a few more minutes. The sun shines on her face, but she feels only cold. She sees Sergey wiping his hands and looking out at the street where a car just drove by. "A beauty, huh?" he says, whistling. "A rare beast. I wonder what he's doing in our neighborhood." Lyra silently returns to her car. Her hands are shaking slightly. She tries to collect her thoughts. He didn't come in. He just showed himself. What does this mean? Intimidation? Or an invitation? She finishes work on the muffler on the machine. That evening, as she's about to close the shop, she makes a decision. If he wanted to talk, he would have stopped by during the day. Since he didn't, the game is still on. So she needs to run again. Today. She tells Sergey she's leaving early because of a headache. She quickly changes, grabs her gym bag, which she still hasn't fully unpacked, and heads outside. She heads to her dorm to grab the rest of her things and disappear before dark. She doesn't make it home. On the corner of her street, next to a small food kiosk, he stands. Jin-ho. He's alone. No guards, no cars. He's wearing simple dark pants and a black sweater, no jacket. He stands and looks at the kiosk's display window, as if choosing what to buy. But his pose is too calm, too expectant. Lyra stops 10 meters away from him. Her fingers dig into the strap of her bag. Run? Where? He's already here. Jin-ho slowly turns his head. His gaze finds hers. He doesn't smile. He doesn't nod. He just looks. Then he makes a slight motion with his hand, inviting her to come closer. Lyra freezes. She looks around. The street is almost empty. No one will pay attention to them. She realizes it's too late to run now. She takes a deep breath and approaches. "Let's go," he says quietly, not waiting for her words. He turns and walks toward the small park opposite, with its benches and dried-up flower beds. Lyra follows him. They sit down on a bench, he on one side, she on the other, at a respectful distance. Her bag lies between them. Jin-ho sits up straight, his hands on his knees. He looks not at her, but ahead, at the roadway. "I need a diagnosis," he says finally, his voice low and even. "Only an honest one. Not of the car, of the situation." Lyra is silent. She waits. "You turned down the money. You turned down the offer," he continues. "I respect that. There are few people with principles in my world, and even fewer who stick to them. That's why I came here myself. Without Kim, without the cars." He turns his head towards her for a second. "But you have to understand my world. It's cruel. There's no room for neutrality, especially for someone with your abilities. You showed up, you solved a problem that the best couldn't. This information is no longer a secret." He pauses, letting it sink in. "My competitors, my enemies, they already know about you. For them, you're not just a mechanic anymore. You're an asset, a valuable asset. You can become a tool for them, or you can become a target for them, because if you're not with them and they can't get you, they'll try to get rid of you, so that you don't work for me. This is not a threat from my side. It's a diagnosis, like your diagnosis of the car." Lyra presses her lips together. She wants to say it's not her problem, that she didn't ask him to come, but the words stick in her throat, because he's saying what she herself was afraid to think, about a shadow that has grown longer and more dangerous. "Why should they believe me that I don't work for you?" she asks quietly. "Exactly," Jin-ho nods. "They won't believe it. You're already in the game. Your refusal of my money, for them, it could just be a move, a cover. You think you've escaped, but they think you're carrying out my mission somewhere here, or waiting for a signal." Lyra closes her eyes for a second. The puzzle comes together to form a terrible picture. "Mechanic, Liam," she says suddenly, opening her eyes. Jin-ho looks at her with mild respect. He nods. "Yes. He was fired the same day you left, for being useless. He became embittered. He went looking for a job, and found one very quickly, with people who had long wanted leverage against me. He told them about you, in detail, about the woman who fixed the impossible. He didn't know your name, but he described you, in great detail. White hair, African-American, and our neighborhood." That was enough. He pauses. "Kim tracked him down to his new place of work 2 days later. We know who hired him. They are serious people, and they are already looking for you. Easier than me. They have different methods, less polite." A chill runs down Lyra's spine. So that's where the insistence comes from. It's not just his desire. It's a race, and her life is the prize. "You fired him because of me," she says without emotion. "I fired him for incompetence," Jin-ho corrects. "Your arrival only proved that. But yes, your appearance made him vulnerable, and he made you vulnerable. That's how a chain reaction works. One action, many consequences." Silence falls. A tram passes by, ringing loudly. "What do you want?" Lyra asks. Her voice sounds tired. "I won't work for you. I won't live in your world." "I get it," Jin-ho says. "That's why I'm not offering a job. I'm offering a deal, a temporary one." He turns to her, placing one hand on the back of the bench. "I'm giving you protection. My people will watch you, not to control you, but to protect you. They will cut off any attempts by competitors to find you or get close to you. You will be able to live your life, wherever you want, work where you want. In exchange," Lyra interrupts, "in exchange for your consultations, in critical situations, when I have a problem that my people can't solve, you come, you look, you give a diagnosis, and you leave, no questions, no delving into my affairs, just the car, just the problem, like that time in the garage." Lyra looks at him intently. "And how long will this last? Until you decide I'm no longer needed? Or until your enemies decide I'm yours after all?" "Until the situation changes," Jin-ho answers honestly. "Until your name is forgotten, until Liam stops being a useful storyteller, until the threat is gone. A month, 2, 6 months, I don't know, but it's not forever. This is a temporary refuge, and a shield." Lyra leans back on the bench and looks at the gray sky. She hates his world. She hates the violence, the hidden threats, this game she was drawn into against her will. She just wants to fix cars and be alone. But he's right. She's already inside. Her escape was an illusion. They found her within a week. Others will find her faster. She doesn't have the resources to hide forever. She doesn't have the knowledge to stand up to people like that. Her principals are faced with a simple choice: independence, which could end very badly in the coming days, or temporary, controlled dependence, which will give her a chance to weather this storm and one day return to normal life. She thinks about her old house, about the door left ajar, about the strange car under the windows, about the ringing doorbell with initials. This was just a warm-up. What the competitors will offer will be far less polite. "What if I say no now?" she asks, looking at him. Jin-ho shrugs. "I'm leaving, and I won't come back. My people will stop watching you. They'll stop interfering with others' searches. You'll be left to your own devices. I respect your choice, even if it's a foolish one." He says this without malice. It's a statement of fact. He offered a way out. His conscience is clear. Lyra understands this isn't a game. It's an ultimatum, but a fair one, and the only sensible way out of this game where all the cards are stacked against her. She is silent for another minute, weighing everything. Then she nods, almost imperceptibly. "Okay," she says quietly. "But on my terms." Jin-ho bows her head slightly, giving me permission to continue. 3 consultations a month, no more. I decide whether I can help only after I see the problem. If I can't, I leave without consequences. Accepted. No permanent contracts, no salary, payment for each call, negotiated separately, cash. Accepted. Complete anonymity. Your people watch from a distance. They do not contact me. They do not follow me closely. I do not know them. They do not know me. Only you and Kim know what I look like and who I am. No one else from yours. Jin-ho thinks for a second, then nods. That makes sense. Safer for you. Accepted. And one last thing, Lyra says, her voice growing stronger. This is temporary. As soon as you decide the threat is over, or I sense it's gone, the deal is off. Forever. You erase my data, and we never cross paths again. Jin-ho looks at her with a long, heavy gaze, then slowly extends his hand. On your terms. Lyra looks at his hand, a hand with tattoos that has seen a lot. She takes a deep breath and shakes it. His grip is strong, but not oppressive. Quick, businesslike. How will the communication work? She asks, removing her hand. 1 phone number. Only this number. For calls only. It will not be traced. You will receive an address and a time. You arrive, do your business, leave. That's all. He takes a simple piece of paper with a handwritten number from his pocket. Lyra takes it without looking and puts it in the farthest pocket of his jeans. I will find a new place, a new job. You will give me time for this. A week. 2, Jin-ho says, standing up. My people will ensure silence. But be careful. And remember, now your safety is important to me too. He stands before her for another second, as if he wants to say something, but simply nods goodbye. Then he turns and walks away, with the same calm, even stride, disappearing into the evening twilight. Lyra sits alone on a bench. She clutches the strap of her bag. She's just made a deal with a power she feared. She sold part of her peace to buy a chance at a future. She doesn't know if it's the right thing to do, but she knows she had no other choice. She gets up and goes to her rented room to pack. Ahead lies the search for a new city, and life in the shadow of a strange, forced union. 3 weeks pass. Lyra lives in a new city, larger than her previous one. She's found a job at a workshop at a large service center. The work is monotonous but stable. She rents a small apartment on the outskirts and doesn't communicate with anyone. Every day, she checks for signs of surveillance. Sometimes she thinks she sees a gray car flashing in her mirrors too often, but it never gets any closer. This is Jin-ho's security. Invisible, yet tangible. Her personal phone is silent. She's already beginning to hope that Jin-ho has changed his mind, that the threat has passed. The phone rings late on Sunday evening. An unknown number. Just one line in the text message. Tomorrow, 10 p.m., Port area, Warehouse 17B. Tell the gatekeeper, pick up Volvo parts. Lyra reads the message several times, then deletes it. Her heart beats faster. The first call. She doesn't know what to expect. The next day, she takes off work early, citing illness. That evening, she dresses in dark, non-marking clothes and takes her old but reliable toolkit. She doesn't pack anything extra. She takes the commuter train, then transfers to a bus heading to the port area. This is an area of old warehouses, dark streets, and sparse streetlights. Warehouse 17B is a long, low building of darkened brick. A guard booth stands by the gate. Lyra approaches and gives the password. A uniformed man, without looking at her, opens the gate. The warehouse smells of dust, fuel oil, and dampness. A few dim lamps glow from the ceiling. A refrigerated truck stands in the center. It's old, battered. 3 people stand around it. 2 are guards, similar to the ones in the first garage. They stand at attention. The third is Kim. He's wearing a dark coat, his face in shadow. There could be foreign equipment in the car, Kim says without preamble, as if they were in a meeting. We need to check to see if it's leading a double life, if it's transmitting a signal. Inspect it. Anything you can find. Lyra nods silently. She approaches the truck. She doesn't ask where it's from, where it's going, or what it's carrying. That's not her business. Her business is to find the fault or the bug. She starts with the cab. The inspection takes over an hour. Lyra works methodically, like a doctor performing an examination. She checks the standard places: under the seats, behind the dashboard, in the fuse box, in the plastic door trim. She uses not a scanner, but her hands, eyes, and a small flashlight. She looks for inconsistencies, traces of fresh glue, different colored screws, wires running in the wrong direction. She finds it in the most unexpected place, not in the electronics, but in the refrigerator's cooling system. An additional, almost invisible module is bolted to the temperature control unit. It's styled to look like the original part, but the mount is new, and the connector has microscopic scratches, evidence of an improper connection. Lyra carefully disconnects the connector. She picks up the module. It's heavier than it should be. She asks Kim for a knife. She carefully opens the plastic casing. Inside, among the regular circuit boards, is a miniature transmitter with a self-contained power supply and a small but powerful antenna. It's not connected to the truck's systems. It simply listens and transmits everything that happens around it: conversations, engine sounds, coordinates from the built-in GPS. Here, says Lyra, handing the opened module to Kim. A transmitter. Operates on a remote frequency. It tracks location and possibly records audio, professionally installed, but recently. Kim takes the module. His face remains inscrutable, but his eyes narrow. He looks at the device he's found, then at Lyra. Where exactly? In the refrigeration unit's control unit, Lyra answers curtly. The access was through a maintenance hatch on the side. She says nothing more. She doesn't ask who could have done this. She doesn't ask what they'll do with the truck. She turns to her briefcase and begins packing away her tools. Everything? Kim asks, watching her. Everything I can find visually and audibly, Lyra says without turning around. To check for deep penetration into the onboard network, you need special analysis in the lab. This is not included in the consultation. My work is finished. She latches the suitcase and takes it in her hand. Report. Autonomous tracking transmitter found in refrigerator control unit. Coordinates and audio. Recommendation. Run a full electronics diagnostic at a specialized service center. She says this in a flat, emotionless voice, as the report dictates. Kim nods silently. He makes a barely perceptible gesture to one of the guards. He approaches Lyra and hands her a plain white envelope, thick to the touch. Lyra takes it without checking it, putting it in the inside pocket of her jacket. How will I leave? She asks. The car is waiting at the exit. It will take you to the train station, Kim says. He no longer looks at her. His attention is already riveted to the exposed transmitter. Lyra leaves the warehouse. A discreet sedan is parked at the gate, as promised. She climbs into the back seat. The driver, a silent man in a cap, drives her through the sleeping city to the train station. They don't exchange a word the entire journey. At the station, Lyra gets out, goes to the waiting room, and then, after making sure the car has left, gets out on the other side and hails a taxi home. She feels a strange emptiness. The work is done, the money is in her pocket, but the feeling of filth and danger does not go away. At home, she throws the envelope on the table without counting it. She takes a long, hot shower, as if trying to wash away the atmosphere of that dark warehouse and Kim's cold gaze. She goes to bed, but can't fall asleep for a long time, listening to the sounds of the night city outside the window. Thus begins her new, strange life. A month passes quietly. Lyra works at a service station, repairing cars, and only interacts with her colleagues on business matters. She gets used to the idea of being watched. Sometimes she notices the same car in the parking lot near work. Sometimes a stranger follows her at the supermarket, who immediately disappears into the crowd when she turns around. It's not stalking, it's security. It's a strange feeling. She's simultaneously protected and imprisoned in an invisible cage. The second call comes 5 weeks later. Another text message, this time with the address of a private garage in the suburbs. The task: find the cause of an intermittent ignition system failure in an armored sedan. Lyra arrives, spends 3 hours in silence, listening and checking. She finds the problem in a poor ground connection, which is disrupted by vibration at high speeds, a consequence of poorly installed armor. She repairs the connection, gives a brief report, receives an envelope, and leaves. This time, she is driven in her car, which she left at the station. The third call is to check for a bug in the conference room. To her surprise, Lyra finds the device not in an outlet or a light fixture, but embedded in a concrete beam under a layer of plaster. A construction specialist, she marks the spot with chalk and leaves. Gradually, this becomes the norm. Once a month, sometimes less often, a message arrives. The task is always technical, complex, and unconventional. Find an information leak, diagnose sabotage, discover a hidden defect. Never participate in anything else. Never ask questions. She is valued for her skills and her silence. Lyra is learning to live a dual life. By day, she's a regular mechanic, Lyra. In the evening, after receiving a message, she becomes a faceless technical expert for a few hours, appearing out of nowhere and disappearing into nowhere. She saves the money from these consultations. It accumulates. It's her fund for the future, for the day the deal closes. 4 months pass. Lyra notices changes. On the fourth call, Kim meets her not in an abandoned warehouse, but in a clean, well-lit hangar. He offers her coffee from a thermos. She declines. He doesn't insist, but the very fact of the offer is a sign. He begins calling her by her first name. Not Lyra, but Lyra. His cold, assessing gaze gradually gives way to the gaze of a professional looking at another professional. He remains laconic and stern, but the undertone of disdain for the passerby in his manner has disappeared. Now he sees her as a specialist who does her job well and minds her own business. The security guards became even more inconspicuous, but Lyra felt their reliability. One late evening, a drunken, friendly man approached her on the street, persistently offering to keep him company. A man in a dark jacket literally materialized from the shadows and gently but firmly pulled the intrusive passerby aside. When Lyra turned around, the guard had already disappeared. She didn't even see his face. Jinho strictly adheres to the terms. He never called himself. He never tried to increase the number of calls. He never asked for help beyond the agreed-upon limits. His men do their job, guard the perimeter of her life without crossing it. This gives Lyra a strange sense of security. She begins to sleep more soundly. She even allows herself the occasional coffee at a cafe after work, without looking over her shoulder every second. She hates the necessity of this deal, but she's beginning to respect their discipline. They keep their word. In her world, full of insecurity, that's worth a lot. 6 months pass. It's autumn. Lyra has already gotten used to the rhythm. She's even made a few acquaintances at her new job. She still hasn't made any close friends, but she might exchange a few words by the coffee machine. One day after work, she's driving her old car, which she bought 3 months ago, to the mall to get groceries. It's a Japanese sedan, reliable and discreet. She stops at a red light at a major intersection in the city center. A large, dark SUV pulls up next to her, in the next lane. Lyra looks out the window absent-mindedly. Then her gaze catches on a detail. Not the car itself, but its wheels. Unique, forged, matte gray. She'd only seen wheels like that once before in her life. On a silver car. Hypercar. She turns her head slowly. It's not a hypercar. It's Jinho's other car, a powerful, armored SUV. But he's behind the wheel. He looks straight ahead, at the traffic light. His profile is familiar, motionless. He's wearing sunglasses, even though the sun is almost gone. He seems more tired than he did 6 months ago. Tense. Lyra freezes. She doesn't know if he's noticed her. Her car is ordinary. She's invisible behind the glass. And suddenly, he turns his head. Not completely. His gaze glides over the row of cars, passes over her window, and stops. His glasses hide his eyes, but she feels he recognizes her. Recognizes her white hair, pulled back into a ponytail, her profile. He looks at her for a few seconds. Then, very slowly, very respectfully, he nods. Once. Briefly. It's not the gesture of a superior. It's the gesture of an equal. Acknowledgement. Lyra looks at him. All those months come flooding back to her. The fear, the flight, the warehouse, the envelopes, the silent guards, his honesty in the deal. The hatred is gone. What remains is a complex mixture of gratitude for the safety and regret for the necessity of this connection. The corners of her lips lift slightly, without her own will, not into a smile. A faint, barely perceptible shadow of a smile. She nods in response. Just as briefly, the traffic light turns green. Ginny H. turns his head forward. His large car smoothly starts to move and turns left. Lyra drives straight ahead. She glances in the rearview mirror and sees his SUV disappearing into the evening traffic. She drives on, to the supermarket, to her ordinary life. He drives on to his own reality, full of other worries and dangers. There's nothing in common between them, only the invisible thread of a strange, forced partnership and the memory of a single, repaired car that linked their lives forever, but never made them part of each other's worlds. They drive away, each in their own direction. The next 6 months follow a set pattern, which becomes a new, slightly crooked, but stable norm for Lyra. Working at the service center is no longer just a cover. It becomes an oasis of calm and predictability. Management notices her attentiveness and precision, and she begins to be assigned more complex diagnostics. She even considers pursuing official certification. It would be a logical step in her normal life, which she still dreams of. Messages come in frequently, once every 5 or 6 weeks. The tasks become increasingly technologically advanced. One day, she's called not to a garage, but to an ordinary city apartment to check Jinho's new, highly secure phone for signal leaks. She finds not a hardware bug, but malware installed via an infected SIM card. She's no programmer, but she understands the principles. She simply reports her suspicions, and Kim, pale, takes the device. With each visit, she notices how her consultations are getting shorter. She's learned to spot a problem almost immediately, as soon as she hears a description of the problem and sees the object. Her brain has learned to grasp the picture of the disease with just a glance. This both terrifies her and gives her a sense of professional pride. Security remains unobtrusive. She only encountered it directly once when her old sedan stalled on a deserted road late at night. While she was rummaging under the hood, a gray SUV pulled up. An unfamiliar man got out, silently placed a warning triangle, helped her find and fix the corroded contact, and then drove away without a word. No questions, no names, simply fulfilling the contract, ensuring her safety and functionality. Lyra grew accustomed to this shadow. She even stopped looking for familiar cars every day. She simply knew they were there. This knowledge no longer caused anxiety, but gave her a strange feeling of security. She was able to allow herself to relax a little. She started going to the movies occasionally, bought a few books, and even planted a cactus on the windowsill, the first sign that she was putting down roots again. Kim became even more friendly during their meetings. He would briefly ask if everything was okay, if she needed help with anything in her daily life. Rent? Paperwork? She always politely declined. Their interactions remained strictly within the confines of work, but the ice between them had melted, replaced by a cool but mutually professional courtesy. Almost 9 months had passed since their deal. Lyra was already seriously planning that in a year, when the danger had finally passed, she would be able to sever this connection. She had accumulated a sizable sum from consulting. She was thinking about opening her own small workshop, but in another city, far from any memories. One evening, returning from work, she stopped at a small electronics store to buy a new blowtorch. While she was choosing, 2 men entered. They were dressed simply, but expensively. They didn't look at the merchandise. Their gaze wandered around the store, catching the faces of the customers. Their eyes settled on Lyra. One of them, an older man with a scar on his cheek, narrowed his eyes. He said something quietly to his partner, who nodded. They didn't approach her. They simply walked out and stood at the entrance, clearly waiting for her. Lyra felt a familiar, long-forgotten chill of fear. These people weren't from Jinho's team. Their eyes were different, insolent, searching, thirsty. She quickly paid for the lamp, trying not to look toward the exit. She walked out, turning her head the other way, and walked quickly down the street. A few seconds later, she heard leisurely but confident footsteps behind her. They were not hidden. Lyra turned into the first alleyway leading onto a busy street. Footsteps followed her. She sped up, almost breaking into a run. She burst out onto the crowded street and almost collided with a man who was just leaving a cafe. It was her bodyguard, the same silent man who had helped her on the road. He recognized her immediately. His gaze instantly scanned her face, detected her panic, and then shifted to the two men who had just emerged from the gateway. Without a word, the guard took a single step, placing himself between Lyra and her pursuers. He didn't adopt a fighting stance, simply crossing his arms over his chest. He was alone, but his posture conveyed such absolute, unshakable confidence that the two men stopped dead in their tracks. They looked at him, then exchanged glances. The man with the scar muttered something quietly through his teeth. They slowly, deliberately, turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. The guard turned to Lyra. His face was impassive. "Should I walk you home?" he asked quietly, speaking to her for the first time. Lyra nodded, still shaking. They walked 2 blocks in silence to her car. The guard opened the door for her, waited for her to start the engine, and nodded briefly. "Be careful, there will be increased attention tonight." He left. Lyra sat in the car, gripping the steering wheel until her hands turned white. Liam Sheck. The episode lasted no more than 5 minutes, but it turned everything upside down. The danger hadn't gone away. It was simply biding its time, and its defenses worked exactly as promised. That evening, a message arrived on her phone. Not a call number, a different, unknown one. "The situation has escalated. You need to relocate, temporarily. We will provide assistance. K." It was from Kim. For the first time, he was writing not to summon her to work, but regarding a personal matter concerning her safety. And for the first time, he was offering direct assistance in her civilian life. Lyra read the message, looking at her cactus on the windowsill. Her small, fragile island of normalcy had cracked again. She knew Kim was right, but the thought of running away again, starting from scratch, was unbearable. She didn't answer right away. She sat by the window and stared out at the city lights for a long time. She thought about that chance meeting at the traffic light, about his nod, about his world, which had overtaken her again, even when she had almost stopped looking back. She picked up the phone and typed a short reply. "Understood. Give me 2 days." She sent the message and put her phone away. She was on the front lines again, but this time, she wasn't alone. She had a strange, reluctant ally, and that, she realized with bitterness, was better than nothing. She stood up to start packing.